Every year, more than 700 million animals are slaughtered in Canada for food, but before that, they travel. They endure grueling journeys, sometimes over long distances, from farms to auctions and feedlots, across borders, and finally to slaughterhouses. Canada has regulations to ensure that the animals are not mistreated, but are those regulations enforced? The World Society for the Protection of Animals wanted to know. WSPA submitted a request under Canada's Access to Information Act. We asked for all animal transport inspection reports completed by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency over a 3-month period between October 2008 and January 2009. It took about a year to receive any of those reports, and many are yet to come. But from what we've seen so far, we believe the system is broken and badly in need of repair. From the reports we received, many animals are suffering immensely, and many are dying during transport. And our animal welfare regulations are being violated routinely. They're just not being enforced. Penalties aren't being issued. During the same 3-month period as the reports we studied, almost 650,000 animals died during transport. In 1 year, that's between 2 and 3 million animals. In one case, a truck arrived in downtown Toronto with 1,491 dead chickens on board, almost 1/3 of the entire load. It was minus 12 degrees Celsius that day. Many birds froze to death. We found that many animals were being transported in overcrowded conditions. For example, 16 chickens are typically packed into a crate that measures just a half a square meter, and as many as 11,000 chickens were on one truck. Yet the regulations say that these animals should be able to stand in their natural position, and it's supposedly illegal to cause these animals injury. But it's quite clear the regulations are just being ignored and they're not being enforced. In addition to the animals that die en route, each year 11 million animals arrive at slaughterhouses diseased and injured. Many shouldn't have been loaded on the trucks in the first place. It's illegal in Canada to transport sick or injured animals. Yeah, there's one report that will stick with me for a long time, I think. It was about a cow that was being transported from BC to Alberta. It was an 8-hour journey. The animal was severely injured, couldn't stand up. But the truck driver dropped the animal off at a rendering plant in Lethbridge and left the animal on a pile of dead animals, but she was still alive. A worker finally noticed the animal a few hours later, saw that the animal was in distress. The cow was vocalizing, clearly in pain, and he did nothing. And it wasn't until the next day that another worker found the animal, finally euthanized her, but she must have been suffering for at least 58 hours before she was put out of her misery. In spite of having identified violations, the documents show that CFIA inspectors will often issue a warning or give out an educational brochure, or even report that a shipment is compliant when it's not. This may be due to the pressure they're facing, working side by side with those they're meant to police. Inspectors can face hostility just for doing their jobs. We received one report that mentioned that more than 700 chickens arrived dead and they were on one truck, yet the inspector just recommended that a warning be given. So there was no penalty and no charges laid. There are only 329 animal health inspectors working across Canada, but 700 million animals are slaughtered for meat every year. That's only one inspector for more than 2 million animals. To make matters worse, CFIA inspectors are not authorized to euthanize animals that are suffering. The problem as we see it, the regulations are weak, and clearly there are too few inspectors with too little power to ensure the humane treatment of Canadian farm animals. When these animals are arriving sick, injured, crippled, and in distress, and it's relayed to us as a percentage or as a statistic, well, it's easy to forget that these are living, breathing beings that feel pain and can suffer just like you and I. Speak up for farm animals. Join the World Society for the Protection of Animals in calling for a decrease in the duration of transport, a decrease in the amount of time animals can be transported before receiving food, water, and a rest, reduce loading densities to ensure that animals can stand and lie down comfortably, heating and cooling devices in all vehicles, mandatory training in humane handling and animal welfare for all drivers and handlers, economic incentives to encourage better animal welfare practices and stronger penalties to discourage cruelty, an increase in the number of inspectors who are trained in animal welfare and authorized to relieve animal suffering. It's time to curb the cruelty. Let's work together for the humane transport of farm animals.